Folks, I miss you so much. You have no idea. It was only
6 hours.
It felt like a year.
And that's also part of the point. We're going to weed out who's for real and who's not. I'm for real. What you get from me is what it is. I tell you, this is a joke. I'm saying what it is. If people want to believe it or not, then they don't. I mean, that's up to them. I can't force them to do it. But everything I'm giving you is 100% authentic.
Hi everyone, it's me again, and Squish Gang, along with myself, have seen better days. So today we're going to be talking about the Def Noodles situation. Before we get into that, links, sources, Amazon, Patreon, Yeehaw, whatever, my socials, everything you need. There's going to be like 80 channels linked by the end of this video, I imagine, will all be down below. So fear not. But do feel free to bully me if I forgot anything. Right now, I am in the second half of a 2-week condensed class. 2 weeks from what's supposed to be 13 weeks normally. Every single moment of my spare time has been this. So I'm very fragile right now. This has taken every moment of free time that I've had. My thoughts are consumed by Dennis. Any obscure triangle I see, I mistake for Keemstar. My vernacular has become only Twitter speak. Only 180 characters at a time. When I sleep at night, I hear Xylie Gets Real's stream intros.
What's up, everybody? Who's hyped for this
and my heart
tonight?
breaks further. To retain the sanity of everyone, including myself, this video is going to be structured a bit differently than my normal ones. For those of you who are usually here, there are typically 3 parts, an intro and a conclusion with 3 sections in between, exactly the same style as a high school essay. That was on purpose. Today, we're going to do something a bit different because I don't think you guys understand. I watched a 6-hour live stream, a 7-hour live stream, a 3-hour live stream, 2-hour-long videos, a 3rd-hour-long video, and then a half an hour long video and a 40-minute long video for this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the 6-hour Twitter space primarily, starting with a bit of context for it though as well, and then adding context to the actual Twitter space when appropriate, because most people, what they've been doing is reacting to the Twitter space and then putting in their 2 cents. I don't want to do that because of time constraints, because I just want people to have sanity, you know what I mean? And I just want this to be something I want people to be happy and not have to sit through this. We'll see how long it goes. I have a feeling I'm going to fail in the condensing. It's not going to be as short as I want it to be, but we're going to try anyway. Every single video is at least an hour long, and the streams are from 3 to 7 hours long on people that are covering it. But we're going to begin right away with what got us here. So beginning with, Def Noodles used to be a kind of Reddit, Facebook meme reaction channel, okay? In that, this is all going to be relevant at some point, if you don't think it is now. Also, this will be chapters. If you want to skip around, skip whatever, if you know the context already, okay? Def Noodles started as this, like, Reddit, Facebook reaction kind of comedy channel type thing. Kaleidos is a commentary channel affiliated with Keemstar, typically, so that you, I guess, Commentary Bros font, which we'll get into the Commentary Bros later. But regardless, Kaleidos is a big channel. He got famous from the Logan Paul Force reporting in early 2018. He had a show called Make It or Break It, where he would watch these YouTube, like, upcoming YouTubers, and then just kind of comment on their content and see, like, what kind of quality it is, what they can improve, or whatever. And Dennis, Def Noodles, went on that show and was seemingly one of the worst responses to Kaleidos' critiques out of, like, everybody.
Let me give you the rundown. 2 years ago, I used to run a live stream game show called Make or Break. The show was me brutally reviewing up-and-coming YouTube talent, creators who submitted themselves for a review, whether it was through donation, through tweeting me, just getting picked randomly on the chat. The show was literally called Make or Break. The whole shtick of the show was that it was the most brutal live review you could get of your channel. But one man stood above the rest. The man we know today as Def Noodles, whose channel at the time of me reviewing it was a Reddit/Facebook compilation reaction channel. Just took other people's memes and talked over them. Effortless content, so needless to say, I ripped the shit out of it.
Soy boy sniper wolf.
Area 51 raid me. Uh-oh. Where are they?
Oh, wait a minute. Fuck off. This guy literally just reads out memes.
Now, Def Noodles seem to take everything I said extremely personally.
I don't need some douchebag to tell me how to interpret my meme.
No, that's totally fine. I totally get it. Outside of the fact that I'm a douchebag, I don't find myself to be a douchebag. I don't know what in my video caused you to think that I'm a douchebag. But I totally understand that. And that's totally your prerogative. And that's why you don't have to click on that video. That's why
Nobody, in fact, has to click on that video. The people who click on it are the people who are seeking that out. And that's what I offer. I offer, you know, a fun way to talk about an event that's happening.
Which some of these people were kids or younger adults, like my age. I'm like 22. It was a lot of kind of like younger people like that. And for some reason, Dennis, who would have been at the time allegedly, I guess like 25, but Nicholas Deorio thinks he's older and like has some like suspiciously good stuff on that. So I don't know, late 20s at least ish probably. Def Noodles made this video called Cabos Made Me Want to Quit YouTube, which has kind of been memed on a lot in this time, like with the whole situation going on, which again is kind of funny in retrospect, but alas, that is the famous video. That's where it came from. Okay, fast forward a bit. Def Noodles is on Twitter, whatever. He gets into it with this guy named Papa Gut. Papa Gut is another kind of commentary channel font type dealio with a particular focus on looking at problematic predatory people online. And Def Noodles and Papa got into it on Twitter, and then they had a debate on YouTube, and Def sounded like a goofy dum-dum, so it went really badly.
You said in your one of your videos, you said you only watched 2 of my videos.
I've watched a couple of your videos. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, I mean, you're basing your entire assumption about all of my work on 2 videos.
So you're saying that those 2 videos just weren't funny?
You're basing the value that I give my audience based on 2 videos that you watched without, I literally have comments come in all the time. I see all of my analytics. I see what parts of the video hit, what parts of the video don't.
Okay.
I see exactly when people click out of the video. I see exactly when people comment, what they comment. I see how long people watch. I see all of that. I know my audience. Otherwise, I wouldn't make the content.
But the thing is that you're saying that you know your audience, and like if they resonate with,
like I said, you started this whole thing.
Okay.
You gotta just say it. You got offended that I called you an incel. I changed it.
I didn't.
Okay? At the end of the day, you got offended. You got offended that I called you an incel, and that's totally fine.
But I didn't get.
That is totally fine if that offended you.
It's a really weird game that you're playing right now, where you're trying to tell me that I'm offended by something to try to discredit my perspective rather than to engage with what I'm saying.
At the end of the day, you got offended by that, and you tried to say that I hide behind comedy.
Wait, can I ask?
They thus now have beef, the internet beef, and we've gotten to this point where Def now is recently tweeting about Papa Gut, says a joke that he apparently looks like a pedo. I've said things like people look like thumbs. I've said people look like, you know, a Teletubby. People look like, you know, a multitude of characters. I'll pull a lot of different things. You know, I said that Austin McBroom looks like the guy from The Weekenders. I'll put a picture in here. Like, so I'm saying that there are a lot of comparisons you can draw that are not like a very specific type of criminal. So my opinion of that being goofy was one that was shared pretty widely across the internet. And Def Noodles naturally got a lot of criticism for that comment, and proceeded to instead double down on it as a mode of protecting himself underneath this satirical character, i.e. the Def Noodles character. One that he doesn't portray anymore, which you can notice by the shifts of aesthetics. I'll put a couple photos in here of the various aesthetics across his channel. And the Def Noodles character was supposed to be that annoying loud guy with the cat ear headphones. Which, funny enough, you know, like, usually, like, streamer women have the cat ear headphones. So, like, I'm wondering what kind of character you're portraying, but that's neither here nor there. One's facing a lot of backlash for the Twitter discourse, which, to call it that, is the lightest use of the word discourse I've probably ever used in my life. Def Noodles thinks it's a really good idea to have a Twitter space that allows people to comment on what's going on. So now we're going to get into the next section, which in this case is the beginning of the Twitter space. So I literally listened and took notes on the entire thing when I should have probably been working on my schoolwork. So I'm only going to go on the important stuff, but it will still be chronological to some extent. So it starts with talking about elections, useless. And then within the first 10 minutes, this creator name that I know is Blossom, that's alleged, I think that's their name, or their channel's An Honest Conversation. Now, I'm not going to tag Blossom in here, and I can explain. Blossom, which Xylie gets into in her streams, is problematic to say the least. I actually just legitimately like don't like her character. Let's speed run this really, really quickly on why I might be a little bit overly negative towards Blossom, because there's something about Blossom that I think every take being wrong all the time is like kind of annoying, but that's besides the point. A Twitter mutual that I had from when I had just started making content. So this is like my first video that anyone ever actually watched was the Gabby Hanna video. And it's surprising because none of the commentary bros know or anything like that. They never talk about who this person is. So I'm actually going to fill in like the history of Blossom, because Blossom has a pretty big role in the Twitter space, and a lot of other commentators are talking about how annoying she was, but no one really knows where she's coming from or why she was like this. So Blossom was in a Discord. So I had a Twitter mutual. A couple people follow me on Twitter who used to be Hello Leash's mods. Hello Leash was another channel that got canceled in like the actual, like it kind of actually worked, which was that usually cancel culture kind of fake, but like that worked for some reason. Anyways, I happened to have stumbled upon a bunch, like the group of people that were Hello Leash's mods. This was kind of just completely by accident. I befriended them all in an internet way on like Twitter or whatever. And then they were like, well, let's have a mutuals Discord. So instead of having to tweet each other all the time and it's on the public timeline, we could just conversate up in here. And it was just like kikiing about like Gabby Hanna's antics. Like it really wasn't anything crazy. Okay. Like it was gossip about Gabby Hanna. Like I didn't even check it that often. There were a couple other channels in there, Fat Jack and It's Malcolm YT being, or It's Malcolm YT is like a Twitter handle. It's Malcolm is the channel. But they were, so all of us were under 20k subs if we were in there at all. And if anyone had a platform at all. Okay, there was me, a couple other people at the time under 5k too, so it was very small. Okay, somebody got in an argument with Blossom, and I legitimately don't even really remember the context of the argument, but then Blossom started writing these like PhD dissertations in the chat, just flooding it with shit, and it got to a point where they started coming at people's characters, but people were quite respectful in the way that they were like, okay, well maybe this is like a little bit of frustration that's coming from whatever. And then Blossom gets so frustrated fighting with everybody that she leaves the Discord. So then Blossom leaves the Discord and then tries to DM this other channel, this other person named Taylor, trying to see like, oh, I saw you left the Discord too. I'm so sorry what they did to you, even though Taylor just left because of wanting to be more private online. It's because of a video she had that went south and didn't want to be dealing with that, which is fine. Blossom makes this video. I think there was 2 videos calling the Discord a cult, and that the It's Malcolm YouTube channel guy was like the king of the cult. Oh my god, because people would say like, oh, it's like king shit, or like, you know, oh, king. You know how people go like queen, slay? Like people were doing that, but then gendered male because Malcolm is a man. That literally, like, unironically is how deep it went. Okay, Blossom makes a bunch of videos calling them a cult, takes people who are not public figures, like they just have Twitter accounts, puts them in the thumbnail like they're public figures, comments on them like they are public figures, and then forces them to leave the internet, threatens people to release screenshots, threatens to do a bunch of stuff, and then that's how, and then had a mole in the Discord. So at the time I was applying to graduate school, and I didn't want somebody making weird videos about Discord conversations to muddy my waters, so I actually left the Discord. That is the only reason I left the Discord, was because of Blossom, who wasn't even in it, because she was going off about whatever. And I never spoke about this publicly because I didn't even want to give Blossom the time of day, because I'm just like, Jesus Christ. I am, at the time, how old was I? 21? I'm 22 now. So like this was like 6-8 months ago or something like that. And I couldn't fathom how childlike she approached these situations, and it becomes so prevalent in this Twitter space by how she just screams over people. And I'll put in a couple clips of Blossom just raging. It's like so frustrating.
We got 7 people on here now. What's up?
Hey, Dennis, or Def Noodles. So we can talk about.
Oh yeah, I remember I met you.
Yeah.
At the
Hey,
Instagram.
yeah. So can we just talk, since Nick Deorio, I don't know if he's in the chat anymore, or in this little thing, but why is he so obsessed with you? Because here's the thing. You haven't said shit. Like these guys or boys, they've been like talking shit for days, right? For months. And you haven't really said anything here and there. And finally, when you say something, their minds go crazy. They're like, oh, Def Noodles, he said this. Oh, and I'm just like, I mean, you're just speaking.
It's very interesting. It's how I know how to respond.
Yeah, like
It's how
people
I've
are
been
like,
conditioned.
I understand why some people are just like, oh my gosh, no, Def Noodles is taking it too far, because like you typically you don't respond like this before, but now like bitch, you're responding, and they can't. They're all like crazy, like, oh my gosh, Def Noodles is gonna be done, and I'm just like, you guys, y'all are worse. Augie, Nick Deorio, all of them are way worse. So it's just funny how they're like acting all I don't know, it's performative. I think a lot of this is just a performance. A lot of this is for online, for views and laughs. So I guess that's what this is.
You know what it is too? I'm an easy target because a lot of say is like ironic and sarcastic. So it's easy to get my words out of context. Like I've said this on my podcast.
I feel like we're going in circles. I feel like
it is circles, but he's not getting on a semi-related note.
I talk a bunch of other people as well. You know, so
I feel like this conversation got with like, because Stephen was being asked about the shirt and all that, the shirt that you made, and then he was being asked about being compared to like, I guess, Jeff Wittick and how he should know to defend you, basically. That's how I was understanding it. So I just feel like there were so many different questions, different angles, and he was kind of answering it. But how I understood it was that he's a comedian, he's getting tagged in all that, so he has a right to like respond because of what he's observed so far. Not that he hasn't, watched every single Def Noodle video. I think that's how I understood it.
And he's also somebody who's, you got to see this as comedy, blah, 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 blah. Like,
and also, like the beginning, it says irrelevant news.
Exactly. Like the whole premise of the show, of it being relevant, is that it is.
I know, but this isn't like your YouTube channel.
Blossom, go like your own tweets. I ain't talking to you. Anyway. Okay? Well, it only takes
Dennis,
one
did you not say
to fuck somebody's life up. Dennis. One crazy person, and you set that crazy person up, is what I'm saying.
So it was just so funny to me because, like, Xylie talks about how annoying she was. Papa Gut has problems with her. Nicholas Deorio has problems with her. I think she even cuts off Adam McIntyre. I'll know when I'm editing, because I have to remember that. But yeah, so that's the brief history of Blossom. That wasn't that brief, but I think that's really important because I don't think anybody else is going to talk about her. Naturally, because Blossom has like 6K subs and gets like 500 views a video or something like that, roughly. I don't really remember. I don't check. I was never subscribed. Her and I have never spoken. She blocked me. Like, when she left the Discord, I'm not blocked anymore, I don't think. But, like, I literally, when people were, like, talking about, like, Blossom's fighting with everybody, I had to, like, look up who Blossom is. I sound like I'm quite negative. It's because of just, like, I don't even have anything against her, like, personally. It was just, like, how she acted was just so mind-boggling to me. So this type of behavior is very prevalent in this Twitter space. Blossom's cutting off a bunch of people, and she begins by just yelling about Nicholas Deorio. Now, I don't like Nicholas Deorio. Or, maybe I didn't, question mark. The thing with Nicholas Deorio is I don't mind necessarily what he has to say. Does he dislike people that I like and vice versa? Yes. However, there are points that Nicholas Deorio makes. I think Nicholas Deorio is a smart person. I do. I think what he says is worthwhile and good and interesting and well thought out most of the time. How he says it, though, makes me want to put my head against a cheese grater a lot of the time, because it's like this, like, edginess for the sake of contrarianism, and I have a whole video on this from before. A lot of my opinions stand differently now as well on that because of, like, the Hella Leash thing, and that's besides the point. Nicholas Deorio is not, like, the way that Blossom was framing him was disingenuous and weird and cringe, so starts yelling about Nicholas Deorio. He's so obsessed with you. He's so obsessed with you. Like, how many Def Noodles take a shot every time Def Noodles talks about Keemstar. You'll die. So, like, it's kind of a weird thing to jump in on, that someone making videos on somebody else is obsessed. Even, like, and the people are going to be really mad about me on this one. Like, Blossom likes Hello Leash. The person who made, like, I think it was something like 200 Gabby Hanna videos. Maybe I'm completely wrong. But I know that, like, 99% of Hello Leash's content for the longest time was Gabby Hanna related. At that point, you're at, like, Leafy Pokimane. And even then, Leafy's Pokimane videos, as someone who, like, actually watched them, were mostly about stocks. So it's, like, there's so much misdirection in the... Just this Twitter space is an example of internet wars. And how you could just completely be blinded of all, like, cognizance and reasoning because of the internet wars. And it's so nuts. Then around 15 minutes in, Def admits that the debate with Papa Gut went poorly, and then somebody brings up that Def being so childish is undermining himself. That lady, I had her name Sage Mama, there it is, that was down the line, was somebody who was, like, supportive towards Def Noodles in a way that was constructive and kind of made sense. Like, there can be a contrary. as in, let's say contrasting, because most people are against Def Noodles in this case, Sage Mama presents the possibility of a contrary constructed and articulated well. You don't have to ride the Def Noodle ding-a-ling to be able to actually make a point. All right, 30 minutes in, Keemstar's lawsuit's brought up. Def describes himself as a comedian and says Keemstar is not a comedian. Now, I hate to say this, but you cannot tell me that in every instance, whether on purpose or not, that Keemstar's not funny. Are you kidding? The in a book guy? The guy who's like, I'm fast as fuck, boy, like running through the woods? Like, you have to tell me that guy's never funny?
We have diamonds. We have diamond. Why is everyone saying stop? What do you mean stop? Look at all... Where the fuck's the diamonds?
Do you have any idea how fast I am? I'm fast as fuck, boy!
Doodle tweeted out for proof context showing that he used to take pictures of Charlie D'Amelio for her Instagram. Oh, okay. And it was used in a book, huh? Big Doodle said, laughing out loud.
I was so excited to be a fucking slut. I couldn't wait to be a fucking whore. I was...
Whether on purpose or not, I am not going to sit here and have someone tell me that Keemstar isn't ever positioning anything satirically. Like that Keemstar's this like serious news source. Like, I'm not funny on video, or maybe ever, depending on who you ask. Like, I could argue a channel like this one, or I would say like Nicholas Deorio is not a comedian, or Cavos is not a comedian, or I'm trying to think of people outside of the commentary bro space necessarily. Petty Page, not a comedian. You know what I mean? But like the way that Keemstar presents news, you're telling me the guy that goes like, "Hey, Drama Alert Nation, it's Keemstar." Tell me that guy's never, like, that's like the serious beacon, and everything that Keemstar says people are gonna take for sure, and that's why Def can say whatever he wants because it's satire, and Keemstar can't because and you have me defending Keemstar. Like, this video is already so unhinged because I just can't even fathom the lunacy. I can't even fathom like the directions that anything has gone in, that I'm literally sitting here defending Keemstar and Nicholas Deorio. Like, this is the classic like universal uniting of like the heroes and the villains. You know what I'm saying? It's whack. This person, Dr. Richards, brings up that if something isn't funny to literally anybody, it's obviously not a joke. Def says because comedy is objective, or no, not objective, subjective, that it's still a joke, even because I've decided it is. Def Noodles tries to drive pity that he does therapy because of Keemstar, while still being the same person that sold t-shirts of Papa Gut crying because of recounting an experience with his wife's SA. This politician comes in and clout chases. What? Like, he literally talks about, it was like the most cringe thing I've ever seen. It was literally just a politician coming in and not raging, like being like, oh, of course I'm going to come in. I am a stupid politician if I do not come in to these people with hundreds of thousands of followers and share my platform as a politician. I'm like, girl, no one will vote for you after watching this. You had to get kicked out of a Twitter space with Keemstar in it because you clout chased too hard on a controversy where somebody added the FBI to call someone a pedo as a joke.
I mean, I appreciate what you're saying. I really do. But I think that when you've achieved what you achieved, which is, I mean, you got some clean numbers there. Those are solid numbers. That's close to 7,000 people that are following you. You're doing something right. Do you know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry.
Then he talks about the Papa Gut video and the Papa Gut comments being satire, but then admits that he also didn't watch the Papa Gut video, which... that's like the biggest bullet to the foot when you say I'm going to comment on something and not watch any of the stuff. I have a job and I go to school and I do this. And I still was like, I really got to make sure I watch this stuff before I comment on it. Like, and I'm not saying that as a way of like, pity me because I'm so busy. What I'm saying is, as someone who literally does not have the capacity and isn't devoting their entire life to this, Def Noodles' only job, quite literally, is reporting internet news. you can't, that's like a jeweler being like selling you glass thinking it's a diamond because they don't really know what diamond, like they didn't check what diamonds looked like first. Like you need, it's literally your job. It's your job to watch videos. Why is nobody mentioned that, which is so wild to me. It's like, of course it's like unprofessional, not to your research, yada, 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 whatever. But people who like have livelihoods outside of this and like do stuff outside of this have more like research dedication than you do. And this is literally, like, you're known as the internet news guy. Because that's the other thing, right? Def Noodles built a persona and a career off of being, like, the kind of this, like, big Twitter account. And being the first to be able to report news on things. So if you're the person who is the first hot off the presses guy, right? Just because you try to put, like, a stupid little catchphrase at the top of your tweets, like, irrelevant news, or this will most definitely change your life. This does not mean that now there is no excuse to ever take you seriously. You cannot use a general blanket disclaimer to negate yourself out of everything. This, unfortunately, is the court of public opinion, not the civil court. And those are two different things. So you've now put yourself in this place where people know you're looking for a scapegoat, know you want to have your cake and eat it too, and know that you don't actually research anything. And then he makes a bunch of excuses for not watching the content he has to interact with directly, but then saying like, oh, well, I have to watch like a ton of like James Charles stuff because that's somebody I report on all the time. It's like, but you're literally trying to make a claim on your adversary. People tried to make this claim when I did my Commentary Bros video, and it's like, no, actually I used to be a big, like, maybe this is all my subscribers are gonna be mad at me. I was a big, like, I watched a lot of Nicholas Deorio videos. I watched a lot of Edwin's Generation videos and Bo Blacks and whatever, because I also just like to see what the opposite opinion is. I like to know what it is. Bo Blacks a little bit too problematic with me because I've seen those Minecraft streams. I will check what is the opposition viewing here and what points does the opposition have. And if I think they're worthwhile, I will be charitable to that being worthwhile. It's not, you have to watch people you don't like sometimes, I feel like, to have any sort of open-mindedness on the platform or have any sort of comprehension of, like, the sphere around you, right? And then Def Noodles goes on this rant about wanting to make a live show for the Def Noodles channel, and then he wants to be Colbert, like Stephen Colbert. So the Colbert Report, those of you who don't know, was this like kind of news show, but it was framed satirically, and it aired on things like in Canada Comedy Central, or I think at night it aired. I don't know where it aired in the States. I'm so sorry. I don't know. But regardless, Stephen Colbert had writers and was a professional comedian, and an accredited professional comedian that people knew of and liked, unlike Def Noodles. Just because you go into a comedy club doesn't make you a full-fledged comedian because you're on a list. A lot of these things, if I recall correctly, anybody can sign up for. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not going to comment on the legitimacy of those so-called comedian claims necessarily, but Stephen Colbert, I hate when YouTubers try to compare. This is what Jimmy Snow did this shit too, and I hated it. When you try to compare yourself to traditional media without any of the actual professionalism for mainstream media, right? So you go, well, because I said that I am a satirical news show. I am a satirical news show because I write a satirical news show. Say, okay, well, you don't have multiple writers, multiple producers, multiple cameramen. You don't have a set aesthetic. You don't have a set tone. You don't have someone to check you. You don't have like any of these things, these actual professional parameters that are required. Now, am I saying that you can't do it? No. What I'm saying is just because you as a one person think it is, doesn't mean that is how it is. People can disagree with me on this. That's fine. I think indie projects are actually fantastic, but I'm just saying is that an indie project can be unsuccessful in doing the thing that it tried to do, and that doesn't make it that thing. If I try to become a professional juggler and can never actually juggle, that means I'm not a juggler. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm trying to make like some sort of analogy to this, but it just frustrates me when they're like, because Jimmy Snow did this too. Just because you want it to be that doesn't mean that's what it is. And Def Noodles can't get that through his mind. Just because you think it's satire and you've delivered it so poorly that no one can conceive it as satire, that doesn't mean it's actually satire because you, the originator, said it was. You know? And to compare yourself to somebody who has this whole team around them and this whole accredited career around them, a whole network around them, multiple networks if you're aired on different places, That's not the same. It's not comparable. Because Def Noodles tries to do this thing where it's like an appeal to authority kind of thing, but then also just like false equivocations to different authors and a bunch of different time frames and stuff like that. So he keeps bringing in random people, like artists, and it's actually, I straight up think, for those of you who don't know like fallacies, I think it's just straight up like a red herring, which means you bring up something that's like so confusing and irrelevant that you're like, what are you talking about? And you forget kind of what they're going with. He brings in artists like Hemingway and stuff like that at one point. I'm like, what were you on? And then goes into conversations about that it was the satire news, but then he's reporting on like internet predators. Like he's commenting on criminal activity in a serious way. So then what is it? Literally, what is it? You're all over the place. Like when I'm relaying this quite literally in point by point chronological order. And I sound loopy. Like this video is I'm gonna get a bunch of comments that are like, this is way too all over the place. You're not usually like this, probably something like that, blah 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 blah. But it's like, this is literally like point by point. This is just how crazy it was. That is literally, each line is one of the points in order, and I'm relaying them. Because now we get to Xylie Gets Real comes in. So Xylie Gets Real is a small commentary channel. I want to say 5,000 subscribers roughly. I should have checked before. I forgot to write it down. But she does live stream content. She's also more, she's older. So she's like 30, late 30s, I think she's in their live stream. I've watched so many of them in the last 2 days, but on like really fast, that they're kind of all blending into one thing in my mind. So Xylie platformed Blossom when the Hello Leash thing happened. Like when the Discord thing happened, Xylie had Blossom on the live stream with, I believe Malcolm was there at the time, and to like kind of just talk about something. I was in school at the time. I think I was doing a class. I didn't actually get to see it, and then I don't remember where it is, or I just don't care about Blossom enough to watch it at this point. But then Xylie and Blossom fell out, and this becomes very prevalent when Blossom tries to talk over Xylie throughout this conversation. It's interesting, and as someone who goes by an honest conversation, doesn't like to let other people have conversations, it's very bizarre and kind of not the vibe.
To do some dirty shit. Okay? And it only takes one crazy ass person to see your, and I'm talking a crazy person, to see your tweet, take that shit serious. And before you know it,
okay, but Def Noodles said that he would be willing to talk to Papa.
I am not finished. I did not finish my sentence. It only takes one crazy person to see your tweet, take it serious, and before you know it, while Papa Gut is live, he could get swatted. Because they doctored that.
Here's my follow-up to that. Where was this energy when Keemstar made the false allegation against me?
Motherfucker! I was defending you back then. Don't tell me to calm down.
Please, you need to chill.
I
know, but this isn't like
you heard before Blossom. Blossom, go like your own tweets. I ain't talking to you. Anyway. Okay? Well, it only takes
Dennis,
one
did you not say
to fuck somebody's life up.
Dennis.
One crazy person, and you set that crazy person up. Is what I'm saying.
I said it crazy. Nothing has happened as far as everybody knows. And then,
as far as you know. I'm saying it could have happened, Dennis. That's what I'm saying.
And not only could it have
seen that tweet.
So
now Blossom, I guess, is trying to affiliate herself with Def Noodles. As when you notice, like when you rewatch the recording part of it, she's one of the first people in there. Blossom being, and is there for the entire 6 hours. What I don't understand is like how there were people that were in there the whole time. Like, what are y'all up to? Like, I watched this on like 2.3 times speed ish over a couple of days, like I'm just shocked. I watched it on 2 times speed if I was using the actual recording because I wanted to see who was talking or whatever. This is why I don't debate online, because you get people who are overly invested in the parasocial relationship with the creator and will have these blatant emotional outbursts as a way of defense. And that's why I don't want to do it. And Xylie was like, had to go in all the time and was just trying to ask him a question. But like the thing with Xylie is a lot of people will say, like Nicholas Deorio said this too, that she's like screaming. Sure. Okay. Yeah. But at the same time, like she's always like that. So I don't know how you want to judge that. That depends on the person. That's not really neither here nor there for me. There's a point where Def Noodles says, just because I say you look like a pedo doesn't mean you are one. Just because I say you look like a fire hydrant doesn't mean you are one. And I was talking about this with Cybernoobed, who I will also tag down below. Which if you're like also an OG in the channel or whatever, is the person that I had a fight with on Twitter over the CNMA video a few months ago. We're fine now. Like, it was not a big deal. But it's just funny how things kind of came to fruition. But she said to me, I think in Twitter DMs or on a Discord call after, like, you can't be a fire hydrant, but you can be a predator. Like, or I could say Def Noodles looks like, I don't know, a head of broccoli, and that doesn't mean he is one, because he can't be one. Like, if you wanted to use that comparison. But I can say Def Noodles looks like he eats boogers, and that could be an accusation, because that's something that can be done. And you can do as a person. You know what I'm saying? Like, these aren't comparable things. Calling someone a predator falls under slander. Because it's something that can ruin a reputation, because it is a very possible thing that can happen in real life. Am I saying in this circumstance it is or it isn't? No. But I'm saying it's one of the things that can exist underneath that, right? Then he continues into the third hour of this whole thing, calling him being Def Noodles in this case, calling himself Colbert again. Someone brings up James Charles allegations, and that's what he was tweeting on, and he says, well, Colbert talked about serious stuff too. Again, though, Colbert had a team. The stuff was cleared through people. It was researched through multiple people. You tweeted out false allegations. So there is obviously an element of carelessness that is also there, that you cannot make yourself comparable to someone like Stephen Colbert. The Def stands keep coming up and completely misunderstanding the entire purpose of everything. I think the dumbest comment I heard the whole time was, if you hate Def so much, then why are you here?
Yeah, I feel like, first off, I'm so curious, guys, in this chat. And why is this guy so he's blocking everyone who's like, has any ill things to say about him? It's hilarious. It's like, what's the point of being on here? I'm curious.
Yeah, Keemstar blocked me, which I think is very
Yeah,
funny.
asshole.
I bet
Not
he
you.
probably blocked me too.
I
because
didn't
said
say
I didn't
anything
like
to him. I didn't say anything mean about him. And he blocked
The internet needs less.
Doesn't he have a
Keemstar.
care of? I know.
If you don't like, they did this to Nicholas Deorio, and if you don't like him, then just don't watch him. It's so easy. I'm even doing the it's so easy. Just don't watch him. And it's like, you literally screamed about Nicholas Deorio when it opened, when he was simply existing. Do y'all realize what end this has gone to? Where I am like defending Nicholas Deorio's honor, because it should be. You don't have to like somebody to know when they're right, which is crazy, because you can also like somebody and know they're wrong. But they don't see that, which is wild to me. That's why I hate the internet. I have such a love-hate relationship with the internet. Because on one hand, it presents opportunity for really good people, and it presents a new way of interacting with media, interacting with information, and it can serve a lot of purpose. And like for me, while I like to help people learn about rhetoric and learn about media and learn about all this kind of stuff, and we have a good relationship with my audience, this also is getting me through graduate school. Like there are a ton of like really good elements to it, but at the same time, you get this dynamic online. Let alone all the disgusting other stuff that exists out there, like, you know, different forms of media and things like that. But neither here nor there. Adam McIntyre comes in next at about around 3 hour, 48-minute mark. So Adam perfectly encapsulates the idea of Def Noodles as like red herring-esque type of argument, which is just word vomit with references to people that he thinks other people know. Adam McIntyre's interaction in the Twitter space was the first video I watched on this, and brings up the notion of like superiority of like the idea of a drama channel and like a commentary channel.
Question is, what's the sudden change? Because you tweeted out that you're not grateful because of this, because more of those kind of audience are leaving you, and you've spent...
I've been trying to pivot to less YouTube drama oriented content. I've been trying to pivot to more pop culture politics.
What does that mean? You've uploaded 4 videos about James Charles in the past 2 weeks.
So here's the thing. A lot of the content that I've been posting that's pop culture politics oriented, you can go through. I've done reactions to Ben Shapiro and other thing. It just hasn't picked up yet on my channel. I haven't been able to bring in this new audience. It takes a while. So I have to still cater to the interests of my audience who's there presently.
You can cater towards them, but you're fully making content for that. So to say fuck you, like, oh, all those people are leaving anyway, that's what you built your channel off of.
Which is interesting because drama channels are considered different. I suppose because of like the frequency of reporting, while commentary tend to be like in-depth videos maybe or whatever. But even then, like somebody like even Edwin or Nick or Bull Blacks or whatever would call me a drama channel, despite the fact that we make similar content in the sense of the structure of the content, not necessarily the characters discussed. While on the other hand, people would call me a commentary channel. I'm not usually in my own comments called a drama channel. It's happened a couple of times, but it's pretty rare. But Adam McIntyre brings up that idea because Def Noodles is like, I want to get away from the drama. I want to be like a political commentator, blah, blah, blah. So Def Noodles insists on having this more serious tone and be taken more seriously. But then his whole argument throughout the entire Twitter space is that he shouldn't be taken seriously. So you need to be able to figure out what exactly you want. You can't be a serious comedian talking about serious topics that aren't satirical and then put satire in them when no one understands your satire. Like, does that make sense? Like, you can't... It's so confusing even when I try to describe it because there's no... I don't know what he wants. He keeps saying he wants one thing and then doing another, you know? I said, and I quote, "Not much was said on Def Noodles' part, also because the peanut gallery was annoying as shit." Adam kept having to repeat himself. Repeat the same question.
Marbles coming back when she didn't. That's gaining a new audience of the old content, which is contradicting what you just said.
One second, you cut out because I just got a phone call. Sorry, can you say that again? My dogs are like, my friend's coming here to pick up my dogs. So.
Okay, don't worry, I can repeat. So whenever you said about that you're now making content that's catering towards the new audience, and the old audience can watch videos when you put it out, why would you even this week clickbait like Jenna Marbles coming back, which is YouTube drama, which didn't happen, which is almost gaining the old audience a new version?
Circles. We're kind of going around in circles a little bit. I explained this.
We're not. You say that to everyone. Like, Dennis, I've been listening for a while. You're saying that to everyone.
Okay. So explain then to me, what is going on? What's your deal?
I'm now repeating this for a third fucking time.
So hold on. I'm trying to understand what you're saying. You're telling me that you're annoyed that I'm posting the same content that I said that I'm moving away from. I explained why I'm doing it, and I'm trying to understand what your point is. You want me to stop posting the content that I post, and you want me to post just the other content? That's what
I think
no. What the hell?
I think he's trying to understand why you're clickbaiting drama if you don't want the drama viewers.
Exactly. You said that you're trying to get new videos on the newer content.
Clarify, I'm not really gaining a new audience because I'm losing subscribers. So that's
because of this.
Yeah, that's fine.
Everyone wants to try to boil it as they have a beef or a disagreement with Def Noodles. Everyone wants to try to boil it down like a peanut gallery. That they have some sort of personal vendetta. Just because you are so emotionally invested in him doesn't mean other people are. I don't really give a shit about Def Noodles. I want to talk about this because it was just such a wild internet phenomenon. Like, I haven't seen something like this since 2016 Pyrocynical made the Keemstar video energy, and it's like, I want to talk about this as a phenomenon of those interactions, right? And not everybody is emotionally invested in the things that they're talking about all the time, like some people are able to turn it off and not care. I think I am still technically subscribed to Def Noodles. I don't watch him really. I think his character was annoying. When he was still on the Def Noodles character with the cat headphones and everything, his videos would come up, he was recommended to me constantly, and I would never watch them or subscribe. I was like, this guy's really annoying. I think I actually remember doing not interested. And then I started watching him a bit more when his Twitter account blew up, because if I needed to know if something was going on, I would check with him first. Then I would continue to verify it outside of him, though, because I noticed a couple of discrepancies early on. The solution cannot always be, well, are you just willing to talk to this person? Talking to somebody when there's such vitriol does not always work, especially when the negative or positive comments can be supported by other people and a dogpiling effect can occur. So I don't see that as being something that's always necessarily useful. But overall, this interaction between Adam McIntyre and Def Noodles was the key point, I find, where the evasion strategy was highlighted. And that's why I wanted to go into that. So here is my longest section besides Papa Guts. All right. Oh boy, 4 hours and 13 minutes in, Nicholas Deorio comes in. All right. For the OGs of the channel, and yes, this is the same person that I've talked about a couple times on this channel, said before. Don't like him.
Cover, makeup, beauty, art, create the most poorly researched content on YouTube unapologetically. They are cyberbullies who moan about harassment and make over 50 videos on one creator. No one is claiming every other community is perfect, but right now, they're the worst. I'm aware many words have many meanings, especially made-up community jargon. But forgive me if I insta-block anyone at this point, anyone from this point on who is too stupid to catch on. I am the one making the points everyone else is echoing/responding to, so my definition is the only one that matters. I'll get into how rhetoric works, like with the victim mentality and the contrarianism lower. But what I want to say is English's adaptation is a community adaptation. Commentator. However, there are two brands of commentary bros. There are the ones that like Keemstar.
Bruh.
We're not a fan. By we, I mean me, not speaking for anybody else. Do I like him more after this? Yes. More, not generally. However, I will say that there was an impressive conversation going on that I was very intrigued with. It was one of the only points watching this that I didn't want to vomit or just scream because I was so bored. My boyfriend thought I was like crying or something because I was just like so intensely staring into the void just listening to this because I was just so drained hearing all these conversations. Y'all are going to be shocked what I have to say because I'll read you my notes like verbatim, okay? Because I also watched a couple of his videos on Def Noodles. He made 2 videos on Def Noodles on the main channel, Nicholas Deorio, and then he made another one. Well, he did a stream on Nick Deorio recently, and he had also made another shorter Def Noodles video. I watched all of those. Nicholas Deorio has been like unearthing his real age, like Dennis's real age, which is really interesting because he talked about this bill that was passed. This was in Xylie's live stream, I believe, but he was talking about this bill that was passed in Brazil or something, and then Def Noodles said that he worked as an intern for this politician, which would have been in 2007, which, if Def Noodles' age that he claims is correct, that would mean at the time he was like 12, 13. But you can't be an intern for like a politician in college, which is what Def said, when you're 13. So that was an interesting hole. This is alleged, by the way. Maybe Nick's wrong. Maybe I'm relaying this incorrectly. Very possible. But I'm just saying, like, that was some of the stuff that was quite interesting. Here is exactly what I wrote. The first 4 points, or 3, on Nicholas Deorio. Okay, so I said Nicholas Deorio comes in. I said hot girl antagonist arc as per usual because Nicholas Deorio likes to be very combative and swing. Like, Mans comes in swinging out the gate. That's what he always does. That's kind of what he's known for, I think, to be this very, like, intense internet debater. I didn't want to talk to him ever for that exact reason, actually, because it's not that I think necessarily that we couldn't come to an agreement on anything. I think it's just more so because I just don't like that approach. Because I find then you'll get kind of these more visceral reactions like the Peanut Gallery's having, and I just not really here for it. Also kind of based. What's the next point? Talking about the uselessness of this convo kind of popping off. Nick did this dance with him. I was almost kind of like, this had me coming out almost like a little bit afraid of the idea of talking to Nicholas Deorio in the future if that ever happened, or other people, I mean, just in general, because he sets up this like really impressive mind game with Dennis that I literally like gut laughed when it came around, because we'll get into that part after because I guess I want to do an order, but it brings up the agreement of the opposition and implies that rationality is necessary and they need to be more objective, that he needs to understand that there are objective perceptions of an audience that can exist.
It's not always clear which part is real and which part is a joke. And even what the joke even is sometimes, as much as he says it's just a character, I don't know if I always believe him. You know, he clearly gets something out of reporting in this world. And even after talking to Dennis, my producers and I were unsure which parts were real and which parts weren't. So you're saying that this is like the biggest comedy podcast, which I heard you say that earlier, and even they don't understand your gimmick. So, I mean, at what point do you kind of go insanity?
I mean, that's fair to say about Colbert too. People thought Colbert was 100% real when he was doing his shit.
Yeah, but there are people who also think Colbert is like funny.
You're getting right now. You're getting like a summary of what he said, and if you go through, he actually asks me that. He asked me. He said, "Are you serious?"
This is his post-interview summary.
Exactly.
So he doesn't believe you.
He's teasing his interview with that summary, right? I mean, the full context of everything I explained isn't presented there because otherwise you wouldn't listen to the podcast. But I explain it very clearly from A to Z, how I arrived at the concept of the channel, how it evolved, and what is real and what isn't. And that's fine. That was his conclusion. That seems to be the conclusion that a lot of people arrive at. That's totally fine. The intention is still the same. Now,
it's not just a lot of people that arrive there, Dennis.
Now,
There are people who are like ontologically like they're like opposed to each other. If I'm agreeing with somebody on the H3H3 subreddit and Adam McIntyre and Cat 10 Barge, people who are completely different than me that I disagree with almost everything else they say, there's like a large sample size of people who have this issue with you.
And then he talks about how Def blames everybody for everything else and doesn't take responsibility for anything. This is like the most direct accusation of that in thus far. Kind of based. Again, loved that.
I want you to realize that you're the problem, not everyone else around you.
So when did I say that everybody else was a problem? I mean, then I'm the problem.
That's what
fine.
the hope on the stream is. It's like, oh, everyone just doesn't get my jokes. You've been doing the same bit since 2020.
Def blames a skewed perception when they're expecting Hemingway, but he's not. And he talks about Hemingway and Fitzgerald, and I was like, you're just using different pop culture references for the Colbert argument again. That still doesn't stick. And please stop comparing yourself or even to any of these like artist people, because you're not doing the same thing. It's just annoying and kind of almost kind of gross. It's like, stop putting yourself, because it makes it obvious that you've put yourself on this pedestal. Even if you're a pedestal below, like Hemingway or whatever, or you this other person's other artist that people know, whatever, it's obviously that you've placed yourself mentally in some sort of like tier. That's where this visceral nature is coming from. Deorio is very consistent in his ideologies and his arguments. Def Noodles tries to impose the idea that people are hypocritical about their wokeness, for lack of a better term. So it's like, well, you don't like edgy jokes either, whatever. But Nicholas Deorio is known for liking edgy jokes, and he tried to like have like a got him where he's like, well, Nicholas, do you think SA is funny? And then Nick's like, yeah, I mean, in some context, I think it can be funny.
Sure. So, is fucking children funny to you?
Could be in certain circumstances of a joke, absolutely.
Okay, so talking about a grown man from the point of view of a grown man fucking a 14-year-old child is objectively funny to you. That's
depends on the
funny.
context of the joke.
This is where the mind game thing starts, okay? Because I feel like you guys are going to be like, well, Mika, you said you laughed at Nicholas Deorio. Like, that's disgusting. Let me get to it. Because I was also confused at the beginning. It's easier to see when somebody's doing something like this when you're not in it at the time. So I'm saying, like, other people would notice notions that others didn't see at the time, right? Because when things are happening in real time, it's a lot harder to analyze it. When you can slow it down, you can pause it, you can do whatever, right? So I was really surprised that I couldn't even pick up on this as it was happening or as I was watching it. Like, I was very shocked. So Def Noodles tries to make this trap. And Nicholas Deorio, it shows how manipulative Dennis has been this entire time, because Nicholas Deorio just swings it away constantly, just like a fly swatter, just like keeps hitting it. Def just keeps yelling over him, do you think it's funny? Do you think it's funny? Do you think it's funny? To try to like kind of get him in an oopsie and be like, well, yeah, I guess it can be funny. And they'd be like, oh, well then you're co-signing it, then you're no better than me type of thing. And this motherfucker goes, I think the SA can be funny in a certain context because the way that you're talking about it makes you look like an idiot, and you looking like an idiot is funny.
Absolutely.
So tell me a context where it would be funny.
I think that it's funny that you made a joke about Papa Gut fucking children because it makes you look like an idiot.
Okay, so here's off. I didn't say he fucks children. I said
no. You said that he was quote unquote joking. The implication is
however,
that he wasn't joking when he made a comment about fucking a 14-year-old girl.
So his joke. We're talking about the quote unquote joke part, which is what you brought out.
Yes, that's
you're clearly not getting it, dude.
His joke was if she bleeds, she breeds. Shout out to Andres Lopez for the life tip or some shit like that.
And your implication is that he wasn't joking about that he actually wants to fuck children if they bleed.
Okay, so essentially the joke is, thank you for teaching me that I should fuck children, Andres Lopez. So now my question to you is, objectively, is fucking children funny to you from you?
I mean, I don't think Papa Gut's a fucking comedian, but my point is, you're saying that statement that you were describing to me.
Is it objectively funny to fuck children?
Wait, I'm so
confused. A 14-year-old girl
what does
or
it matter
a guy?
if the joke is funny? Is your like ethics on whether you can make it, whether the joke is funny or not?
So Nicholas Deorio has separated the objective idea of SA as a concept, which is what Def was trying to pin on him, with the idea of the word being used in context of a conversation being funny because Def has just screwed up so often that it's funny now. So instead of it being the idea of assault, like the actual act, Nick's implying that the sentence, like, do you think Saie is funny, can be funny because Def is using it in such a stupid way that it's hilarious. I don't know if I've come across that clearly, but that seems to be what he was doing. If Nick watches this video, if I'm wrong, let me know, but that seems like what you were doing, and I thought that was so funny. You're like, no, trying to manipulate people like this is what's actually funny because you're an idiot and you're fucking it up. And it's like I have to give it to him. I can't say anything negative about Nick at this part of the conversation because I think he just really just unearthed everything and was pretty level-headed too, which was nice after the peanut gallery, chiming in all the time and the other weird people. And then when Xylie came in, I forgot to mention this before, somebody with an OnlyFans was trying to say that Xylie was like harassing them or something. And it's like, and we're just yelling over everybody. It's like completely unrelated. It's like, this is not your Twitter space, first off, so why are you bringing that up? Secondly, it doesn't seem like that was even really accurate of a description, but maybe I'm wrong, whatever. But Nick was very level-headed in this environment, which I feel like is really hard to do because everybody was just so all over the place. Yeah, and then the peanut gallery tries to push at Nick and get Nick frustrated, kind of like how Xylie was, and he just doesn't care, which I loved that. I'm very impressed with Nick's blatant push to the manipulation, and his conversation in this case indicated some really impressive debating skills. I'm as shocked as y'all, is all I'll say. Okay? So here comes the end leg of the Twitter space. This is Papa Gut comes in. So I'm going to ring this off really quickly because I have a bunch of little tiny points. So Papa Gut talks about being jealous about Ethan Klein. So Ethan Klein apparently shouted at Papa Gut. Papa Gut thinks that was the reason why Def has started going after him so much because Def Noodles and Ethan Klein are famously closely affiliated for whatever reason.
And of course, you're going to edit it out so that you're only going to cherry pick the people who say, oh, sure, and then make a slanderous video about me. You've been obsessed with me for no reason other than I can assume is that you saw that Ethan Klein said something nice about me, and you've been on a meltdown since that's like your guy. I don't know why. You're the one who re-engaged this entire thing because somebody said Papa Gut owns you. Hold on. You decided to like come out here saying that you created my entire career, despite the fact that I blew up on TikTok through my own
mentions that he can't acknowledge when Keemstar is right. I've talked about this a ton of times in this video alone, that you need to be able to acknowledge when your adversaries are right, even if you don't like them. I literally just kissed Nicholas Deorio's ass for X amount of minutes, which is a sentence I never thought would come out of my mouth in my entire life. I have a couple of friends that I talk about like when I'm making videos and stuff, and I literally was like, I can't believe this is what's happened to me. So if even my stupid ass can sit back and be like, yes, then Def is obviously showing a blatant disregard for what can be objectively correct. Then Papa Gut multiple times throughout this brings up that reframing process that Def Noodles does, where he'll try to bring up a red herring or a just negated point or a straw man. Straw man being you take one specific notion of someone's argument that's irrelevant and try to fixate on that, which is what Def Noodles was trying to do to Nicholas Deorio by saying, oh, do you think it's a joke? Like, do you think it's funny? And just repeating that because Nick is known for liking edgy jokes.
So, this is where we're starting. Because you pretended to apologize, but you already admitted that was disingenuous, right?
Oh. I get you want to get a lot off your chest, like, but this is gonna be, you gotta have some kind of conversation, otherwise it's just gonna be you yelling at me, like trying to interrupt it. Anyway, so just explain to me how calling someone an incel is a slanderous claim.
So, like I was saying before, again, Dennis, if you think that the term slander is too loaded, I said about 4 times now. We can down.
No, don't redefine the conversation. Don't redefine the conversation. Just answer the
Dennis,
question. How
I will retract in this instance the word slander, but I will still hold to the fact that you had a very dishonest framing to try to pin me out as somebody who just instantaneously hates women and like can't have sex. I guess is some kind of a virtuous way, right?
They're talking over each other a lot. Then Papa Gut mentions some sort of $300 donation that was ignored. I don't know what that is. I just wanted to bring that up for people that didn't listen, because like that was mentioned if you were wondering, if you know what that is. Dennis harping on being unbiased as like an absolute, as if that's something that's necessarily possible to do, especially in the internet space, especially as somebody who you can't be unbiased if you can't acknowledge the correctness of your adversaries. That is what the most important thing with this is, I think, is you need, when you're online and you're in a conversation space, you need to be able to understand the opposition's opinions and evaluate them. And at times they can be correct. So if you can't even hear them because you hate them so much, you have a bias against them. I talked about the very beginning of this. I feel like I have a little bit of a bias against Blossom just because of history where I've just seen how she's acted and I'm like, ugh. So if I can acknowledge my bias there, and I would consider myself like a moderately unbiased person, but you can't be fully unbiased, and Def Noodles demonstrates that he has strong bias. Yeah, twisted the slanderous nature of jokes that Def Noodles makes, despite not mentioning like why he's so angry. You can Papa Gut brings up a couple of examples, but if you like do an action inherently or by accident, Def Noodles considers that as admitting to.
So, few points. You admitted to not doing research.
I never admitted to that at all.
You admitted to not doing research or seeing that I had made all the donations. You admitted that you didn't reach out to Sniper Wolf and that you don't like to get both sides of the story. And now you just admitted to over-sensationalizing something and then immediately taking it back. It's not slander. So those are three things.
Yeah, but all those are effectively lies.
Now,
next, watching, so they know that you're.
Now, please elaborate. Please elaborate. How was it dishonest having incel in my title?
So Dennis, it's more than just incel, right? It's the fact that you called me like an incel. You framed me as some kind of a woman hater, so you can dismiss my point. You went on like a whole tirade about like being fat, ugly, blah blah blah. It's a lot of different. Dennis, you apologize for this. I don't know why you're acting like this is coming out of left field.
Which admission and action are not necessarily the same, especially if something ends up happening by accident. More blatantly dishonest framing from Def Noodles by saying things like anybody who actually follows me, people who actually know me, which is just an emotional appeal. Says a lot about you ad hominem as well, which is sick. Then Def Noodles says that he created Papa Gut. Big slay. I loved that. Even though they have to make such different content too. It's like, no, you didn't. Dennis speaks in like these crazy absolutes, talking about things like if Papa Gut mentions something once, such as like that distasteful joke that he made, that by nature is how he always acts and there's no way behind it. It's just one instance of doing something is always with Def Noodles, but then in that case, when people try to condemn him for an action that he's done, he's like, that's a one-time thing. So having the cake and eating it too, as per always. It's hard because in their conversation, it seems like they're both trying to manipulate each other into saying that like trauma is funny. And do both throw irrelevant questions. But Papa Gut's just like throwing out whatever he can come with, which is interesting because this is right after Nicholas Deorio, who literally was able to like fool Dennis into a circle. And I think that would have actually been more productive if Papa Gut could lead him to a place, because this instead makes Papa Gut just look like he's a little bit too emotional in this whole thing. Def Noodles tries the same thing he did with Nicholas Deorio with like the do you think it's funny straw man, which is repeating over and over and over again. Talks about how Papa Gut piggybacks on traumas because he talked about his wife. That's coming up on some like you're kind of a monster shit, I think, personally. They tried to get a moderator and they were really annoying about that. Nick did try to go in like one time. I honestly like agree with Nicholas Deorio said in one of his videos that it was like pretty much impossible. I agree with that. Because even if Nick tried to moderate in any way, the Peanut Gallery started chiming in anyways. The Peanut Gallery tries to moderate, which obviously was just not purposeful. Last 50 minutes, they're just trying to close, and it was just ridiculous. Papa Gut closes that Def is wildly dishonest and focuses on being negative towards him. Implies that the reason that the joke was made was because he's trying to, like, he's jealous of him. Def Noodles makes these jokes to, like, end people's careers. And then, like, Def ends on this, like, emotional appeal. End thoughts on the Twitter space. I am legitimately shocked of the real-time attempted twisting in every single response that Dennis was doing. And we talk about the rhetoric of satire really quickly. Satire as a function is supposed to indicate the cause or the social aspect that they are trying to make funny in the projection that they are doing. Simply trying to make yourself look like the thing does not make it effective satire, especially when you can't stay consistent to your character. Because I feel like Def Noodles would be the first person, based on like this attempted like wokeness that he has or whatever the commentary bros want to say or whatever, would be the first one to say something like Filthy Frank is not satire because it's like too far or whatever. I'm not commenting on whether or not that is, by the way. I'm just saying, like, you can't have this inconsistency and flip-flop, and like I said, even the Def Noodles aesthetic, that was that annoying character, he doesn't have anymore. So it's like, well, then what are you? And I said, it's crazy when it brings together people like myself, Adam McIntyre, Nicholas Deorio, Xylie Gets Real, Kat Tembarge, who are all like super, super different, and we all seem to have like a similar opinion. This was obviously just a waste of time. Everyone's going to say that. And it made the diehard supporters just sound so ridiculous. Really quickly, to comment on other content, I mentioned I watched Xylie's stream, Nick Deorio videos, Paige Christie videos, Cabo's videos, Adam McIntyre, and the Twitter space. And then recently, as of like literally last night, I think it was like 1 a.m, and I was like half asleep, and I was just like letting Xylie Gets Real soothe me to sleep, reading Keemstar's motion to dismiss. If you want, I could do a video on that later. I can do like a part 2 to this with the motion to dismiss, because I just don't want to get into it. I want this to be a brief video for people to catch up on. To really, really, really grossly underestimate it, the motion to dismiss was based on the fact that Keemstar made this claim towards the Def Noodles character, where Def Noodles in the Twitter space claimed that the Def Noodles character is separate from Dennis, whatever his last name is, I forgot, which would then make Keemstar's claim null and void. So that's what I understood. I was also half asleep. So, and I have to film this today because I don't have time when I go back to school. So if I can read into that more, if you want, leave it down in the comments. To conclude, I have a feeling that I failed to be as brief as I wanted to, and I can tell by the amount of time on the screen. All sources will be linked down below. If I forgot anybody, please let me know. Other links down below, my socials, my email will be in the description too if you want to suggest content in like a more long form. I haven't been responding to the emails, but I have been reading them. I just never know like what to respond. And I somehow always get them when I'm in class, so I just like skim read them while I'm like in a lecture hall and I forget to answer. Yeah, might do a part 2 if you want. I don't want, but I will. I'm just kidding. Reading the motion dismiss would actually be kind of the vibe, to be honest. But yeah, so that's all. And I'll see you guys when I see you. Have a great day. Bye.
What is considered a crime against food? Eating cheesecake. Context. I hate cheesecake.